Um, so often when we're the designer, when we're the person who's building the product, we make a really bad mistake. We fall in love with our idea and we fall in love with our solution. And so over the last 2 months, as I've gotten to observe Allison and Laura and Michelle developing Vouch, one of the things that has impressed me is how they've been able to both generate good ideas, but to still treat them as assumptions, right? Knowing that the information that will really validate them is not what their opinion is, but what users say. And so with that, I'd like to welcome Allison to talk about Vouch.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to share this research and the product that we have developed as a result. My name is Allison Kissell, and I'll be presenting on this work with my co-founders, Michelle Trame and Laura Carroll. People say that you should never loan money to family and friends, and yet we do. And you've heard the story about borrowing money from family and friends. It goes like this: it's a bad idea and it ends poorly. But so many of us have limited options and are tired of being prey to loan officers, payday lenders, and banks. And with outrageous interest rates and inflexible terms, we're often worse off than we had been. So we turn to family and friends, and we borrow for medical emergencies, we borrow to pay down other debt, we borrow to put a down payment on a home, and we borrow to make ends meet. So we might borrow for bills and utilities and rent. And a Finder survey from 2018 found that Americans borrow $184 billion every year, 88 million Americans to be exact. So we reject the narrative that borrowing from family and friends is wrong or shameful or irresponsible. Because if 88 million Americans are borrowing, why aren't we supporting them in that process? If you can't turn to people that love and care about you, you turn to people that don't. There are more payday lender storefronts in the US than there are McDonald's. We spoke with gig economy workers in 2019, and through this generative research, we really hope to understand their financial behaviors, given the income volatility that they experience in that line of work. What we uncovered was that in the absence of a safety net, people really relied on their friends and family, and with that comes a great deal of emotion. So we decided to dig in there, and we continued to conduct interviews and surveys and usability tests because we wanted to understand how borrowing between family and friends really plays out, to better understand how this affects people's lives, and to understand how we might support them in that process. And here's what we found. People feel shame and embarrassment about borrowing money. Interpersonal lending is deeply stigmatized in American culture, and in our research, we discovered the evidence of potential for long-term damage to those relationships. Borrowers feel the brunt of that stigma when their options are limited or non-existent. So as we move forward and develop our product, we must build borrower and lender confidence so that shame and embarrassment don't get in the way of a successful transaction. And we know that there are uncomfortable power dynamics at play. Discussing financial arrangements is all the more challenging because borrowers and lenders don't know what constitutes fair terms for friend and family loans. And this really inhibits their ability to create terms that work for both parties, and it leaves room for resentment to flourish when communication breaks down. So as we develop our product, we must enable and compel proactive communication and provide opportunities for borrowers and lenders to operate with a shared set of expectations and referencing a single source of truth. And lastly, we know that people are really anxious about damaging their relationships. They want assurances that the agreements between friends and family reflect shared understanding and expectations. So we must foster support and flexibility and give users an easy way to incorporate these into the lending relationship. I'm going to hand this over now to Laura, who will share more of the stories from the people we spoke with.
As Allison mentioned, there's a great deal of emotion around this. I'm going to share two of the experiences that helped inspire our work. First is Holly. We met her when she was in a bit of a recharge phase. She'd previously been a software engineer, but she really needed a break from that toxic work environment. So she quit and she started driving for Uber and Lyft. She loved it, but she was not making ends meet. She needed to borrow money to afford her rent. And when we spoke with her, this was a very real and very urgent need. She told us even though she's in a position to borrow from her parents, she doesn't want to. The relationship is fraught with resentment, and she often feels they use money to coerce her. She told us, "One of the things my parents do, even though I'm almost 40, is to try and control me by saying, well, we can help you. We can give you money for this." She said, "No more, like no more." She told us she'd actually divorced herself from her parents because of these challenges that came from borrowing, and she was instead resorting to selling some of her valued items. This intertwining of borrowing money and resentment was clear with multiple people, including the next person we spoke with. This is Nando. He's 22. We met him at Whole Foods filling orders through Amazon Flex, and he also drives for Instacart. When he was actually introducing himself, one of the first things he told us about was that he felt really disconnected from his family. He actually referred to his friends as his chosen family, and all of that started with one instance last year. He told us, "My family had to bail me out of a mess, and they're still salty. Now they think I'm nothing but a poor decision maker, and that puts a huge strain on us." His family had to lend him money, and they hadn't talked about if or when that was going to be paid back, and so now it lingers, in his words, like an elephant in the room. And so in all of our research, one thing that we really saw was that borrowers feel forced to choose between their financial health, and the health of their relationships. And with so many Americans borrowing money every day, and especially now, we see a rich space for opportunity here, which is why we came up with Vouch. Vouch really protects the relationship beyond the life of the loan. It's a way for people to get what they need to improve their lives while eliminating the emotional baggage that comes with borrowing and lending from friends and family. And now I'm going to pass it on to Michelle to show how our research has helped bring this concept to life.
Thanks. We built Vouch around 3 design pillars and used user testing along the way to help refine our trajectory. These 3 pillars I'm going to quickly walk you through them and how they show up in our platform. So we are building borrower and lender confidence by resolving confusion about how to set up a loan. We have a simple process that puts borrowers at ease and helps them come up with clear terms. Unlike existing calculators, we start with what a borrower needs to be successful. The borrower gives their amount, they indicate the repayment amount that they're comfortable with and the interval at which they can make that repayment. And then if they're interested, they can adjust the interest slider to give an additional payment to their lender. What we give back to them is everything that they need to talk to their lender about starting their loan. It takes out an awkward back and forth and replaces it with clear communication, turning a hard conversation into a simple request. We know that talking about money is challenging and uncomfortable, so we're trying to enable proactive communication. We start with agreements that center the relationship. We know this is more than just a financial transaction, so this is putting the relationship before the dollars and cents. We're encouraging borrowers to look ahead to what and anticipate what they need to feel supported, and helping them develop strategies for managing expectations now. We're asking borrowers and lenders to tell us about their values, and then we'll share those responses between the two. These commitments are the first thing that they see when they log into their loan dashboard. We tested this with users who felt like it was really valuable. They said having the reminder that, yes, I agreed to this, that it's good accountability. We're giving people the opportunity to practice accountability, not just through paying their loan, but through how they're managing their relationship. We're giving people tools to discuss relationship dynamics at the core of the lending and borrowing experience that keeps the relationship at the center. Next, we're fostering support and flexibility. The big thing that differentiates a friends and family loan is flexibility. On our platform, borrowers can repay early or modify their repayments their repayment schedule without any penalties, while they're in communication with their lenders so that there are no surprises. This was hugely popular with all of the people that we tested with before developing and in development of the app. One of the people we spoke to is Carmen, who said, "I can't just look at things as cut and dry. I look at situations." We heard from both lenders and borrowers that they wanted to have the flexibility to adapt to changing situations. Friends and family loan is a lot more about supporting someone in the place that they're at than it is sticking to strict terms or schedules. Vouch serves as a single source of truth by providing a shared schedule and loan term sheet. Because we heard from so many lenders that having to remind the borrower about repayments was an aspect of lending that they really disliked, we take that on. We're sending the borrower reminders when their payments are due and following up with them about missed payments. Removing doubt or confusion prevents miscommunication and unmet expectations that can harm a relationship. We're inspired to work on Vouch, not just to support individual borrowers, but because we think it's a way to build stronger communities. This especially rings true now as one in five Americans are out of work, and we're facing many unknowns and perhaps don't have access to traditional financial systems designed to keep us afloat. We know that we can facilitate a loan between one borrower and one lender. If we can improve the outcomes for borrowers and lenders, then people will be more likely to engage in lending and pay for their positive experience. When people borrow and lend to friends and family, it keeps money in their own communities. Keeping money in the community means it's not sucked out by predatory lenders. Opting into reciprocal financial support creates financially resilient individuals and communities. What if instead of believing it's wrong or shameful or irresponsible to borrow from friends and family, we believed it was a demonstration of the trust that we have in each other? If you're on board with this mission, we invite you to join us at vouchtogether.com. We have options to get involved. You can onboard a loan with us and also get involved as a beta tester, seeing the latest and greatest things that we're rolling out for Vouch. We're also excited to talk to folks that are interested in mentorship. We're continuing to take our product to the next level, and we'd love to talk to people with backgrounds in design or anything else that you think would be a useful talent or skill to help us bring Vouch forward. Get in touch with us if you are interested, and thanks for joining us today.